2024 in film. Well, for this guy.
Dev Patel makes a pretty impressive directorial debut, and shows, at least in this go-around, that he has a pretty firm grasp on just gritty, sweaty, down and dirty, vicious action. Huzzah! A great original concept that's executed to its full potential. They're still out there, everyone! This was so just intriguing and pulpy and uncomfortable. I could have watched a 4-hour cut of it. Not much longevity, really, but still, it had that simple New Zealand indie movie charm. Honestly, I forgot I even saw this. I wish this received similar success to Fury Road. I don't entirely get why it didn't. I mean, it's a different pace to Fury Road, definitely. Like, this almost feels like you're watching a giant, loud novel. But other than that, this is more of just that badass berserk trip that we've taken before. It's unfortunate that a cluttered third act left an iffy taste in my mouth, because I was really enjoying this. A legacy-quel, as I suppose it's called, that's about how the previous story is honored or dishonored within the actual world of the franchise. This is one of those movies that feels like a dream. Not in a majorly mind-bendy abstract way, but more in a what's going on kind of way. While this was too saccharine for my liking, it's not the type of movie that I would warn against showing kids out of fear for their intelligence. It serves its purpose, it has imagination and a message and yada yada yada. So yeah, not for me, but for families, sure. I think this was a fair sequel. While it does sort of repackage the message of the first movie, it goes about that in an imaginative and new enough way. This actually felt fan-made, you know? It wasn't a plot that these badass characters just happened to be in the middle of. This movie embraced their iconography and actually made that the plot. It was totally, gratuitously a comic book movie. Is it the cinematic equivalent of greens and protein? No, not really. It's more ice cream. But fuck it, I like ice cream. Sue me. Michael Keaton, he slips back into this role like he never left it. In a sequel that, despite 30 years, requires more time for another couple of rewrites, if you ask me. But, to be honest, I don't really like or dislike this movie any more or less than I do the original. This succeeds at having its cake and eating it too, displaying both the humor and the cruelties of old age, often within the same scene. This movie plays out like if Stanley Kubrick and John Carpenter got their hands on just a gigantic pile of coke and directed a 3-hour-long skincare commercial. Every even just slight sound is dialed up to 100. One scene will be just hyper sexy, and next scene will be just an avalanche of gross bleh. The colors even are just so neon and vivid that you can just feel them. The way it's edited is just beating the shit out of you. This movie it's an assault on the senses. Like it attacks you. So yeah, recommend it. Whatever can be said about this movie, for better or worse, it's ambitious. To a point where you don't know what's happening or who the characters even are to each other? Yes, but ambitious nonetheless. On the one hand, this is more of what a Transformers movie should be. Always should have been, really. On the other hand, it's a lot of what I personally would prefer a modern animated movie to not be, minus the animation itself, which was pretty badass. I gotta say, to my surprise, this movie was less nature is so beautiful and animals are so innocent, and more nature is cruel and animals are dicks, which gave this both an edge, but also allowed it to have a very sweet one-for-all, all-for-one arc. I liked it. Sorry, I just did. Look, don't get me wrong, I agree, there are blatant, glaring problems with this movie. But I'm gonna have more respect for a risky move that doesn't work out than a safe move that doesn't work out. Look, much respect to these people for being able to pull off this sort of new film storytelling technique. It just so happens that the film it's been applied to fluctuates between genuinely sweet and just kinda corny. You've got Ian McKellen here, and he's playing someone that comes across as a kind of cheeky rogue, but by the end we realize is a downright sociopath. Unfortunately, whenever he's not on the scene, his absence is felt. Okay, this is a straight up thriller. Like, with all the fuck up fixing and ass smacking and fist flying and drug taking, even relatively pointless moments ultimately add to this just chaotic ticking clock tension of the whole film. Every sad thing in the world rears its head into this damn film. I'm tempted to accuse it of just tear baiting, but this does do a good job at getting you to just want to hang on to those fleeting moments of just adorable, simple innocence, that it makes all that depressing shit less gratuitous and more effective. This was a pretty sweet little movie. They struck a tricky balance with this character, because you're never against him. He's a good guy, but you understand everyone's frustration with him, and why he needs to grow. Not just for them, but for himself too. Musicals are pretty hit or miss for me, and as someone who saw the play years ago, remembers liking it, but not much else, I'm probably not the person to consult, I guess, about this movie. I'll just say that I thought it was fine. Okay, look, this definitely had its issues, but I can't help it. I'm a bitch for cinematic Middle-earth, and this just hit me right in my nerd core. Visually, just spectacular, and unpolished honesty. P.S. I find it quite fitting that the last movie I saw in 2024 has my favorite ending line of dialogue of 2024.